What is up, YouTube? 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 What is up, Christianology family? So we have Tucker Carlson interview with an alleged victim of Joe Biden. So she basically, allegedly, she got R-worded by Joe Biden. YouTube, you can't say the word, but you know what I mean, man. She got inappropriately touched by Sleepy Joe. So we're going to react to it. We're going to understand why she's saying this and if it's believable or not. Let's get straight to it. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Let's get straight to it.
So your lawyers have sued the Biden Department of Justice for misconduct. Tell us about the suit, why you filed it, what you hope to achieve by it.
Yeah, well, my attorney actually had filed a complaint with the Inspector General about the way I was treated by the FBI and DOJ and how they were harassing me. And they didn't receive a response. Surprise, surprise. So after we waited, there was no response. He filed a tort claim, and it's for $10 million. And basically what the outcome will be, hopefully, is that they will open my FBI files and then expunge them. And the criminal case that has been opened against me in Northern California, the one that's sealed, will be revealed. Because that was opened by DOJ and FBI, where they took all my Twitter communications, now X, it's called, but Gmail, you name it, all my social media was taken under sealed warrants. The only reason I know about the sealed warrants and it was publicized is because a Twitter lawyer had called and told me that this has happened, and they had made a motion in court to tell me. And so this case had impaneled a grand jury, so it went pretty far. So it's just like shy of indictment. But what are they going to indict me for? Well, they won't tell me. Now, as an American citizen, that's infuriating, right?
But I think I am confused. I think a lot of people watching this are confused. You, of course, are most famous for recounting in public your experience, a sexual assault, and I think it was a sexual assault by then Senator Joe Biden in an elevator when you worked for him.
Not elevator, corridor.
Corridor, I beg your pardon. And unlike a lot of people who make these claims, you have contemporaneous evidence in your mother's call to Larry King Live, which came out years later. It's an amazing story. And I think it's a credible story. But what did you do wrong? How did you wind up the subject of a sealed potential indictment of a criminal investigation by the U.S. government? What was your crime?
I think not shutting up. I think because I just wouldn't stop talking. I kept trying to push it for an investigation. If you recall, Jen Psaki, when she was asked one question one time, Peter Ducey, I think, asked the question and said, about me, about Tara Reid. And she said, oh, that's been litigated. It was never litigated. She lied outright. Right. It's never been litigated. It's never been investigated. And I was asking for an investigation. All they did was pay money to have media hit pieces done on me.
But of course they did. And you were attacked. The whole believe all women thing turned out not to be true, I guess.
Right. No, it's not true. There's no Me Too.
There's no Me Too. But a criminal investigation into you is a completely separate category.
Yeah.
And really an escalation of a kind most Americans can't understand. Like, why would they possibly be criminally investigating you? Do you know?
There were two. Yeah. I mean, the first one was for perjury. When I was an expert witness, and it took me lawyers and thousands of dollars to clear that. They had to drop that case. And then they came at me with a sealed case, which I can't do anything about because I'm not even supposed to know about it.
And this is the federal government?
Federal, the DOJ, FBI. And so...
So there is a...
Sealed case.
So Soviet, it's hard to believe what you're saying is true, but I think it's checkable. There's a sealed case against you. They're investigating you for a crime. They won't tell you what the crime is.
Right.
But it clearly is a felony, or they claim it's a felony.
Right.
Correct? And
I posted the sealed warrant, and that's been in the media. So the sealed warrant is visible. You can see the case number. Journalists have tried to look it up. My attorneys tried to look it up. No one will tell them what it is. Then they started coming at me in more subvert ways, which was, basically harassment, death threats. Particularly it amped up when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Representative Matt Gaetz asked me to testify in the whistleblowers panel. Like I was going to talk about how difficult it is to be a whistleblower because I'd been so targeted. And then when I was about to testify, I'll get to that part. But when I was about to testify, things really amped up as far as threats and undermining me. And it was hard to get a job. People thought I was a security threat. There were, innuendos. My reputation was destroyed, and we've talked about this. So my attorney basically said, okay, that's that. We're going to, file this complaint. And this came after, when I was here in Moscow, Russia, I came here to publicize my book and to oversee the translation of it. And I did an interview with Channel One. And
Which is a Russian TV channel.
And Channel 1 is sanctioned, apparently. And apparently that was, I was here for vacation, so I had packed literally for 7 days, 5 days. Didn't have much with me. And then about midway through, I started getting, messages that I was from former intelligence. They were trying to get me messages, whistleblowers, like, look, you're in danger of being indicted if you go back. I talked to my lawyers about
Indicted for what?
For FARA, the Foreign Registration Act, which is the same thing they went after Maria Butina for. And
Paul Manafort.
And Maria Butina, if you read, there's a really good article called The Spy Who Wasn't, who really lays out why she wasn't a spy, and she wasn't. She's now working for the State Duma, but she was definitely targeted. But that set the precedent. Paul Manafort, in her case.
But wait, just to be clear, you're an American who has accused the sitting president of sexually assaulting you while you worked for him as a young woman. And you have evidence to prove that that's true.
Right.
Contemporaneous evidence, which I think is key. And all of a sudden, you're the criminal because you wind up in a foreign city and you do a TV interview. Am I missing something?
Well, they, in 2019, if you recall, one of the smears that they made against me was that I was a Russian asset, even though I had no ties to Russia, immediately out the gate. That was the Biden campaign told that to the New York Times. They said that was their first response, not a denial, not anything else. They said, oh, she's a Russian asset. And that started in 2019 and got spread around, and then it continued on and had a life of its own because it was spread by former Obama staff, Edward Isaac Dovier, people like that, who have some clout on social media and people listen. So unfortunately, there was that kind of overhanging it. So when I came to Moscow.
So you make this allegation against the president of the United States, then a candidate, a credible allegation, once again. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think it was credible. I think it is credible. I think it's true. And they don't even respond. They just accuse you of being a traitor to your country.
Immediately. That was the first response, not even a denial at first. So I thought that was interesting.
And the media amplify this.
Oh, yes. The New York Times amplified it. Washington Post did. Everyone did. Politico, they did their due diligence for the empire, I guess. I didn't really understand the media at that time. Now you have to understand, I'm a regular citizen. I don't have a PR team. I don't have lawyers. Now I have a lawyer, but then I didn't have resources.
Where were you living?
I was living in California. And I was really naive about, the media. And now I understand. I think a lot of people in 2019, 2020 were still a little
And just
naive.
to be clear, it sounds like you've been a fairly liberal Democrat your whole life.
I was. I really had, really believed. I worked for Leon Panetta as an intern. I worked for Joe Biden. I worked as a Democratic operative on congressional campaigns. I was trained by Homeland Security. I was trained by Seattle Police to help with domestic violence. I was a train the trainer. I donated my time. I worked for Democrats. I believed in it wholeheartedly. And so it's been heartbreaking when I came forward with evidence how I was treated, how I still am treated. Like to this day, like I get called right now a defector, a traitor. I did back then before I left the US.
I keep stepping on your story and I'm sorry. Okay. It's just a remarkable story when you lay it out and give the timeline. It's amazing what's happened to you. So just back to where you were before I interrupted you. So you're here on vacation to get a translation of your book done.
Yes.
And you do an interview with local TV, and then you start getting messages from informed people who you trust. Tara, you're in danger of being indicted. What happens then?
Well, I would be put into a cage because with the FAR Act, it's a backdoor into the Espionage Act, essentially. It's the Federal Registration Act. So you have to register as a foreign agent registration Act. Yeah. It's administrative. They never used to even use it, but now they're using it as a backdoor into espionage. So you might recall the Uhuru Group, right?
Very well.
The
black nationalists that we defended.
Right. They're being sentenced this month up to 10 years in prison. And I've read through all their whole legal case, and I have a law degree, so I'm interested in those things. And you know what the charge is? Sowing discord. So I want people to really hear this because sowing discord shouldn't be a crime, and they shouldn't be able. But they're being
sowing discord.
Sowing discord. That's the term under the FAR Act and the backdoor into the Espionage Act. And so they're facing up to 10 years in prison or more. Their passports have been taken away. The sentencing happens this month. They have no ties to Russia. They simply spoke out against the proxy war, against Russia via Ukraine, and for that they've been punished. And what I want people to hear is that it's not just January 6th people that are being targeted by the DOJ.
No,
it's to the left, it's to the right.
That's right.
It's someone like me that just had a claim against my former employer that should have been investigated properly and should have been adjudicated in a proper way. And I should have been treated with some dignity instead of having my life torn to pieces.
So again, back to the story. You're in Moscow, where we are now, and you hear that you could be indicted or punished under the Foreign Agent Registration Act for giving this interview with a local TV station. And what do you do? How do you respond?
Well, I wanted to look at all the data points. You know, I'm not an impulsive person. I like to think, and I didn't have a lot of time. I mean, we're talking, I had to make this in a 48-hour window, right? And so this was a lot of pressure, but I did. I took the time. I talked to my daughter for hours. I talked to my lawyer. I got more data points of other people who had opinions that were educated. And then I talked to Matt Gaetz. And I'm forever grateful that he took my call. And he was, you know, I want to give him some credit here.
The congressman from Florida.
Yeah, because I was supposed to go the first week of June and walk with him on the Senate floor to get my Senate thing opened. And I wanted to do that. And he advised me, he didn't advise me, I should rephrase that. He gave me information. He basically just said, you know, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about your personal safety. And you're good where you are, you know, that kind of thing. And he just said he knew how those people operated. And so he was concerned about me.
Those people being employees of the US government.
Right. And he sits on the Intelligence Committee. So when a U.S. congressman tells you something like that, that's a remarkable data point, right?
It is.
A remarkable data point, and I trusted him. Because he could have easily just said, oh, sure, it'll be fine. And I did ask him, I said, please, you know, Congressman, can you help me? Can you get me off these charges? Can you? And he said, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. My hands are tied. I don't even know what they are. And sometimes some of this intelligence isn't shared. But what I can tell you is just that I understand how these people operate. And yeah, I'm really worried about your personal safety. Because I had received death threats at that point. And you think about it, I'm not that well known. I would have been in the news maybe a day or two. Maybe you or someone else might have talked about me for a couple of times, but it would have been considered a conspiracy theory, like Adam Rich, right? And his death.
Seth Rich. Right.
Seth Rich, yeah. Seth Rich.
So yeah. What I find so compelling and shocking about your story is that I still don't understand what you did wrong.
In their eyes, they see me as somehow being a traitoress, is the words that they use. I think in the USA Today, there was a former CIA agent who gave a quote saying that my thoughts about America made him viscerally angry. Because I was talking about inflation. I was talking about the fact that there's 600,000 homeless. I was talking about the fact, you know, I'm involved with geopolitics. I have a law degree. I'm interested in it.
So but you're an American. You spent your whole life in the United States. Mm-hmm. You worked for the sitting president.
Yeah.
Who you say sexually assaulted you.
Yeah.
You're upset about the state of our economy.
Yeah. How
does that make you a traitor?
Apparently it does. And apparently my views about the proxy war against Russia via Ukraine. And in 2019, I had said, and this is true, that if Joe Biden was elected, that he would go to war with Russia.
You were right.
Yeah.
So
she was right.
Just to bottom line, the path that you took for people who are hearing this for the first time, you decided you could not come home after that.
I decided then I had to figure out, well, what does one do? Because you can't just like decide to stay in a country without proper paperwork and a visa, right? You can't just like, oh, I'm just going to hang out
That
here.
would make you a stateless person.
Yes. So I reached out, and I'm forever grateful to Maria Butina, because Masha helped me, and she helped me with the process of how to of applying for political asylum, which I did. And it took a few weeks. Only 10% of those cases get accepted. But they do their due diligence, and they felt that there was enough of a problem where they had to give me asylum.
This is after speaking to a U.S. congressman who sits on the House Intel Committee who told you he was worried about your safety.
Correct.
How hard a decision was that for you? That's a big decision.
It was a big decision, but it wasn't just what he said, and I don't want to put this all on Matt Gaetz' shoulders.
No.
Yeah, it was several people's, and one, I can't really say who it was, but went to great risk to send me a message to say, if you get off that plane, they're going to take you into custody.
For what?
And violation of the FAR Act, probably. They were talking about violation of sanctions. There was talk that I had red notices, which are, arrest warrants. Like I could have been picked up in Istanbul.
By whom and for what?
By the U.S. proxy. By that's how they do it with Interpol. They arrest on behalf of the U.S., like in the UAE, in Dubai. So I had a lawyer who actually specialized in people that have that happen to them, and she got the red notices pulled. And so now those are gone. Now that I'm under asylum. But they'll extradite you from every country. So the only two countries that will not extradite an American back to America is Iran and Russia.
This is a really crazy story.
Yeah.
It sounds like you don't have any way to get your story to an American audience.
No, it's very difficult. I mean, I have a large Twitter following, and I have a podcast that I do, but
no one has called. What's so interesting to me is, we have a supposedly free media in the United States as a backstop against a check against government overreach, too much power in the hands of too few. And so it's supposed to be a self-correcting system. If something truly crazy and totalitarian happens to an American citizen, our media is supposed to take an interest and alert the rest of the country so they know what's going on. So they can say, whoa. I may not like Tara Reid, and I don't agree with her or whatever, but you can't do that. You can't arrest someone for no crime or for complaining about the president. Like, has anyone from the New York Times called you?
No.
Or Politico,
No,
or
no.
the Daily Beast to say, just tell us what's happened with you?
Those, no, of course not. They only do hit pieces. And they're working for the empire. There's no question. They're just working for the, as proxies to the U.S. government. I mean, I think, some of the reporting that Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger have been doing has been really valuable.
Yes.
Because they've been showing how there's actual think tanks that basically put out articles to these, and then they reprint them. They don't even change them that much. So these are planted articles. Like, there was all kinds of lies told about me, that I lied about my education. Now, I never lied about my education, that I defected to Russia. I didn't defect to Russia. I was threatened with my life and my family, and I didn't want my family harmed. I didn't want to be at risk of being put in a cage. And I can't tell you what that conversation was like with my daughter, that it was hard.
Have you seen her?
No.
Why?
I can't. Under political asylum, I can't leave the borders of Russia because, I'm under the protection. And to be frank, I don't know when I can ever go back to the US. I don't know when there's a safe
But
path.
what have you done?
In their eyes, I've committed some sort of crime, and I haven't done anything. And that's the thing. I've never committed a crime. I'm not a traitor. I'm not a spy, not a spy for Russia. I don't have tons of resources. I don't have a PR team. I just told the truth about Joe Biden. I told the truth about what he did to me, and I told the truth about the corruption, and I wouldn't be quiet about it. And I was demanding to be heard. But let's say I'm not going to get $83 million like E. Jean Carroll, or a perfume line like Stormy Daniels, right? Or treated like with dignity in the press like those women were because they accused a Republican. No, I was attacked and
no one has
destroyed.
defended you.
Not really. Rose McGowan.
No.
She really has. Megyn Kelly gave me a platform a couple of times. Of course, you have, other than that, independent media, even the lefties, even though the Me Too reporters, silence. You don't see any Me Too reporters coming and telling my story, do you? Never once. They protect Biden. This is all about catch and kill. And if you recall, I went to Time's Up for help, right? Time's Up. Roberta Kaplan, who just represented E. Jean Carroll. Roberta Kaplan had to resign from Time's Up because she was smearing me and the Cuomo, survivors of the people that talked about Cuomo. And because she did that, she had to resign. Time's Up was dismantled. And she went on to represent, E. Jean Carroll. And E. Jean Carroll publicly said that she was going to now support Biden and give him money. It's unbelievable.
It's totally evil. It's completely evil.
It is evil.
Where does it, I just can't get past this question, and I don't want to upset you, but of your daughter. I mean, you have a child in the United States.
Yeah. That's been hard. I missed her graduation.
Wow.
She got her master's. They went after her actually while I was here in Russia. The first month I was here, a bunch of Democratic troll farms or whatever doxed her photo, her work address, tried to get her fired. She was interning as a therapist. She's a therapist with children. She works with play therapy with children who've been traumatized. And they tried to get her fired, and they were saying it out loud and calling the work. But luckily, my daughter's work is, not interested in those kinds of, smears. So my daughter's fine. But having her face plastered everywhere because she's associated with me. My horse was almost kidnapped. They literally came and took him almost on a trailer. And luckily the owners of the stable were there. So I'm getting these calls at 3 a.m. in Moscow that my horse is being loaded on a trailer by someone I don't know who's going to take him for Joe Biden. That was what they were saying. They were taking him for Joe. So luckily he's safe. But I mean, it's been sort of relentless. It's been, and I know public figures, I don't consider myself a public figure, but other public figures do get harassed like that. But when you're a regular citizen like I am, it's really daunting, especially if we don't have the resources to protect yourself, right? And which I didn't.
Do you expect you'll be able to see your daughter anytime soon?
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable putting her in, the spotlight again. She's about to get married.
Okay, great.
Can you go to the wedding?
I can't go to the wedding.
Yeah. That's virtual.
And, I'm upset, but, and I don't want to be a victim here. I'm angry. And I want Joe Biden to be held accountable. He's taken years of my life. He's destroyed it 3 times over. And I'm going to continue to fight.
Tara Reid, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Don't worry, Joe Biden's not winning this year, so you could come back to the U.S. After October, you could come back. Thank you guys for watching. Man. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoy the content. See you guys on the next one. Peace.